Hey, it's about halftime on the Eagles game, so I've decided to take a quick break and provide a little tip for you people that are thinking about home brewing. A lot of home brewing is just common sense, using good protocol, good equipment if you can afford it, but a good equipment, number one. Good ingredients, make sure you buy legit kits and not kits that are below grade. You'll never get a good beer off a bad kit, so you have to really check the reputation of who you're buying kits from. Number three, just being patient. Don't serve stuff too soon. Give it the time it needs. Good measurements, making sure you hit the guidelines for your beer. Don't try to rush it. Also, don't wait too long because that can also be a problem. And last is sanitation or sanitary practices. Sanitation, I guess, is not the right word. It sounds a little bit too intestinal, but sanitary practices. So this is a Dogfish bottle, which I've had a lot of luck with. Dogfish, number one, the labels are pretty easy to remove. And number two, the glass is pretty thick. A lot of your twist off bottles obviously are pretty thin because that's once and done. Those bottles aren't being used again. And a lot of times these bottles aren't used again either, but they should be because they have very thick glass on them. You can tell it's Dogfish here by the insignia. So this is a bottle that can be used over again. Now every bottle has a life to it. You can't use it indefinitely, but I don't know. These are good. I've used them for a bit and I'll continue to use them. So sanitary practices, what does that mean? So this is a beer that I drank today. It was a triple IPA, had some sediment on the bottom, had some yeast and some other detritus. It's very, very important that after you get done drinking or emptying this bottle, I typically would pour this into a glass, although there's sometimes I'll drink it out of the bottle, is the first thing you do after you empty the bottle is wash it out immediately with some hot water. Just wash it out, because anytime you go to clean something, the sooner you are generally to when it got messy, the better. I guess that's just probably a tip for most things. You don't want stuff to set. You don't want stuff to harden. You don't want stuff to get infected or breed bacteria. So just quick. So the tricky thing is if you're traveling, if you're out on the road, you're at somebody's house, you're in an inconvenient place to get stuff washed out. And that's why I would typically stay away from bringing a craft beer to like a place like camping or something, unless there was a water supply really, really close. But I like the heat of the hot water coming out of the spigot or the faucet here in the kitchen, and then multiple rinsings where you can just see like the junk come out, just the bottom of the beer. Sometimes you got some stuff on the bottom, and just do it several times. If you're going to travel, best to use cans or like throwaways that you just don't have to save, or crowlers or whatever, anything that you just don't have to bring back to your home location. Although, if you go to somebody's house and you have access to a faucet, no problem. Just make sure to tell people if you're sharing your beer, give it back to me, or go wash it yourself and put it back in its case, or put it back in the cooler. So that's really, really important. You can do the eyeball test. This is currently full of water. It was hot when I filled it up. You can do the eyeball test. Make sure if you're a little bit, your eyesight's not great like mine, that you put your glasses on. You inspect the bottle up against some light. And like I said, rinse it out 4 or 5 times. Now, when it comes time to bottle again, you do want to use some form of a detergent and some form of a sanitizer. And those are 2 different steps. I don't like to use a soapy detergent, and that's kind of a contradiction of terms, but I use OxyClean, which has some like detergent kind of qualities, and I use a brush that expands fully into the bottle and fully into the neck, and you can really scour this very, very good. And I do that. I do a solid scrub, and then I use a Star Sands as my sanitizer. I probably should use a kind of a more soapy detergent on my bottles, but the problem is, man, you got to really, really wash these bottles out very carefully, because soap scum is a real thing. You can get it on dishes too, and the only way you avoid it with dishes often is by running it underwater. So if you have like kind of a passive bottle, you have to be really careful about not having soap in that, because it's going to ruin the taste. I have found that with sanitary practices, that if you wash the bottle out once you pour it out, number one, wash it out rinse it out, shake it a bit, rinse it out again, rinse it out again, rinse it out again. It doesn't hurt to do it more than you think you need to do it. Take a look at it, see if there's any crud still in it. If it has crud, it's dangerous. It's going to get worse over time. Put it in a dry spot upside down so the water doesn't linger at the bottom. Once it loses chlorine, it's going to become potentially something that could spread bacteria again. So most municipal water supplies have chlorine in them, so the bacteria is minimized. But once the water is standing, if there's any impurities in the beer, it'll lose the chlorine and possibly become infected. So that's an issue. So put it upside down, in your dish drainer or whatever, and then let it dry. And then when it comes time to bottle the beer, the day of, don't try to sanitize any sooner the day of. It's a long day. If you're going to sanitize, you're going to first clean your bottles out, wash them out, and then sanitize them. It takes a while, and then actually do the bottling takes a while. So 4 or 5 hours total to do about 48 bottles. Make sure to really rinse it out well after you rain your sanitizer through it. It's not necessary, supposedly. I just don't like the idea of having anything in the bottle that's not clean, even if it means running under like a faucet again to wash it with water, which has a little bit of chlorine in it. I'd rather do that than have some like phosphorus in the beer. But there are people, as long as you follow the parameters and the ratios of how much like Star San you use to water, that say you don't need to clean out the bottle. It's enough. But I just wash stuff out, and I haven't had a problem. It still ferments fine, re-ferments, bottle condition. That's it.